What's up, peoples? Tim Egan. Hello, sir. Sit nice. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this camera off right now. I'm going to stop light. Continue to drive so we can try to put the camera on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this in a couple of minutes. Anybody can go back and watch what they missed. So, as you guys seen from the title, of the live, this is about Sergeant First Class George Otero Barreto. So Jorge Angel Otero Barreto, aka the Puerto Rican Rambo, or also known as Sergeant Rock. This guy was the real deal Holyfield, if you know what I mean. This is a true American hero of Puerto Rican descent. This ain't no talk out of your ass type dude right here. You know what I'm saying? This ain't a cat that just talks about it and not be about it. You feel me? He can walk and talk and chew bubble gum at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And legitimately stand up for what he believed in, and it shows. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been decorated with all these medals during the Korean War, I believe, or excuse me, the Vietnam War. I believe he was in. I think he was in. So he's born in April 7th, 1937. Okay, so 1937. So 1955, he was 18 years old. So I'm not sure exactly when the Korean War ended, but he definitely was in Vietnam, and he's the most decorated U.S. soldier of Vietnam. You know what I mean? I kind of spoke about him before on the no-fly zone. That was a brief. I spoke about him briefly, not a long extensive. I didn't speak of him at a length. It was really at that time, it was just like an interval of what we were going to talk about. So here I am, and there's a reason why this video is being talked about right now. This individual, some people might know, some people might not know, but it's just basically it breaks down to game recognized game, and that means real recognizes real. This dude's a real American hero, a real American soldier from the United States Army, right? No added preservatives or none of that crap, right? It's like I said, he's the real deal Holyfield. You know what I'm saying? Thanks everybody else for stopping in. Joey Dimes, Carlos Muniz, and whoever else is here that I didn't catch. But again, his name is Jorge Otero Barreto, right? AKA the Puerto Rican Rambo, AKA Sergeant Rock. He's born on April 7th, 1937. So he's still alive. He's 85 years old, and he was born in Vega Baja, Puerto Rico. And he was he did 11 years in the United States Army. Like I said, he's a SFC, Sergeant First Class. He was in the 101st Airborne. He was in the 25th Infantry, the 82nd Airborne, the 173rd Airborne Brigade Combat Team. Vietnam War, he's got the Silver Star Medal. He's got the Bronze Star Medal with the V device. He's got the Air Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Purple Heart Medal. Imagine that, the Purple Heart. That's awesome. The Purple Heart. Let's see. So I'm going to break it down. So he's got the Silver Star Medal with 1 bronze oak leaf cluster. That's what he's got in the first row of his all his medals. He's got next to that one, he's got the Bronze Star Medal with the V device and 1 silver oak leaf cluster. His second row of medals, he's got the Army Commendation Medal with the V device and the 3 oak leaf clusters. Next to that, he has the Purple Heart. Wow, imagine that, Purple Heart with 4 oak leaf clusters. Next to that medal, he has the Air Medal with 1 silver oak leaf cluster. His third row of decoration medals, he has the Army Good Conduct Medal with 3 good conduct loops. Next to that, he's got the National Defense Service Medal. And next to that, he has the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. The 4th row, he has Vietnam Service Medal with 4 bronze service stars. Next to that, he has the Vietnam Campaign Medal. And next to that, he has the Vietnam Gallantry Cross. Okay. Now his next set of commendation medals, he has the Presidential Unit Citation. Next to that, he has the Valorous Unit Award. Valorous. Next to that, he has the Meritorious Unit Commendation. The next row, he has the Vietnam Presidential Unit Citation. Next to that, he has the Vietnam Civil Actions Medal Unit Citation. And next to that, he has the Vietnam Gallantry Cross Unit Citation. His badges, he has the Combat Infantryman Badge. He has the Basic Parachutist Badge. He has the Basic Aviation Badge. And he has the Expert Rifle Marksmanship Badge. I wonder if he took out hundreds of guys in one night. Okay. So let's give you a little background on this guy. Okay. He, like I said, he was born in Puerto Rico in the little town of Vega Baja. His father was named Eloy Otero Bruno. See that? Bruno, his father's second last name. Probably had some Italian or Sicilian blood somewhere down in the lineage there. Like I had mentioned to you guys before, that I got family members that have Portuguese last names and Italian, Sicilian last names, and they're straight Puerto Rican, but somewhere down the line in their lineage, they're they got that European blood, which we all have a lot of European blood anyways, right? Black Hat Music, salute, sir, for your true service. You know what I mean? That, and shouts out to Primo, to Black Hat Music, to Michael Hensley, to Army Combat Medic, and anybody else that I can't think of right now that served in our military armed forces. Okay, so his father named him George. Guess what? After George Washington, who his dad admired, right? He received his primary and secondary education in Puerto Rico, and then he attended college for 3 years studying biology until 59, and he joined the U.S. Army. For people that don't know, and I know most of you guys do know, but I'm going to say this anyways, just so the people that don't know will know. There is no such thing as a Puerto Rican Army. The United States Armed Forces, when you join the military from Puerto Rico, you join whatever branch you join, but it's the United States Marine Corps, the United States Army, United States Navy, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. United States Air Force. Okay, so I had a friend, a close friend, I call him family. He was born in Chicago. Once his parents up, the mother took him and all his siblings back to the island. They didn't speak no Spanish when they got there. And when you go to school over there, they have you take a test and they see where you're at, your reading levels and all that in Spanish and all that. So they didn't know no Spanish. Eventually, now they speak fluent Spanish. Okay. Well, he joined the United States Army from Puerto Rico. And just because he was born in Chicago and, you know, from the mainland, he still had to go to he told me a 2 week, I think it was a 2 week course on the commands in English, so that the Spanish speakers from Puerto Rico would get up to speed. And that's what happened with him. So just for anybody that don't know, United States Armed Forces, Puerto Ricans, when you join in Puerto Rico or Vieques, you join the U.S. Armed Forces, whatever branch you picked. Okay, after his basic training, so he chose the Army over medical school in Spain. After his basic training, he continued to train with the 101st Airborne Division in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, graduating in 1960. Okay. So from 61 to 70, Otero Barreto served 5 years in Southeast Asia. An advisor who helped train Vietnamese troops. According to there's a document called Brave Lords. It said that Otero Barreto served in various military units during his military career. He served in the 101st Airborne Division and the 25th Infantry Division, Tropic Lightning also served in the 82nd Airborne Division and the 173rd Airborne Brigade, which I think I already mentioned that. He participated in 200 combat missions, was wounded 5 times, and with 38 military decorations. Among his many decorations are 2 silver stars, 5 bronze stars with valor, imagine that, and 4 Army Commendation medals. And what's this one? 5 Purple Hearts and 5 medals. So he's are Puerto Rican Rambo and Sergeant Rock. Okay, so he's been called the most decorated Puerto Rican veteran. And some organizations and media have called him the most decorated soldier in Vietnam War. However, NBC News said that Robert L. Howard may have been the most highly decorated American soldier of the modern era. So that being said right there, I don't really dig that too much because it's kind of like putting kind of they're trying to, they're saying that he was the most decorated U.S. Army soldier, and this other part said that the other part, Botero Barreto, says that he was the most decorated Puerto Rican veteran, which I don't really think that because Americans, right? So what's the purpose of all that? I kind of mentioned that before too, in another it was in the No Fly Zone episode. So was highly decorated, the most decorated Puerto Rican veteran of the Vietnam War living today. See, again, I don't really dig that. So we went over a lot of his accommodation. I mean, military stuff, hardware, what we call the sports. But Company A Battalion Airborne, 500 Infantry to the 101st Airborne Division, second day of the first medal in action on 17th near Quiet Tree. The brigade part of the Operation Jep Stewart, while named the U on May 1st, part of Operation Carin 2. During the 17th fight, Barreto's unit was operating quite tree in concealed enemy positions and came under heavy fire. And a machine gun, the gunner had been moved and the assistant gunner killed, and covered the withdrawal of his platoon until he expended all the gun ammunition. During the fight, he also organized the unit's orderly withdrawal from the area. Wow, that sounds familiar right there. This is the real story. His second silver star was awarded less than 3 months later on May 1st and came during Operation Cannon 2 north of Hue, still with Company A, although promoted to platoon sergeant now. Otero Barreto unit was occupying defense positions near a village when they came under attack. The citation attackers were north of 8th and 90th North Vietnamese Army Regiment and were trying to break through established around the village. The attacks began at 415 hours. After 3 assaults failed, the NVA fell back into the village. According to the ward citation, Otero Barreto led his village defense positions in the process and positioned his squad to provide covering fire so the rest of the company could advance. Otero Barreto later earned a Bronze Star with Echo Company's Recon Platoon on December 3rd, 1968. So these are real battles that were documented in in the history of Vietnam and war battles, United States, right? So post-war honors on June 22nd, 2012, Otero Barreto was the keynote speaker at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Dinner in Lorain, Ohio. On September 1st, 2006, the Coalición Nacional Puertorriqueña, so that in English, that's the National Puerto Rican Coalition, honored Otero Barreto with a Lifetime Achievement Award in the conference held at the Hilton Hotel in Chicago. The keynote speaker was U.S. Congressman Luis Gutierrez. Okay. At a transitional home for veterans in Springfield, Massachusetts, Sergeant First Class Jorge Otero Barreto Homeless Veterans Transitional Home was also named after him. The home is managed by the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 866 in Springfield, Mass. The home is a part of a program named the Jorge Barreto Homeless Veterans Transitional Program, which houses 12 veterans. The program offers counseling, TVA services for the Western Massachusetts Bilingual Veterans Outreach Center, assistance in obtaining Chapter 115 financial assistance, meetings, and rehabilitation substance abuse meetings. Also, the town of Vega Baja dedicated its military museum to Pedro Barreto and the Hotel Jorge Museum. Museo. Okay. Second, 2011, was named Vega del Año en Civismo, the Civic Citizen of the Year of Vega. Otero Barreto was featured in the documentary film Brave Lords, Perspective War in Vietnam as experienced by Puerto Rico soldiers. 2016, Lieutenant General Joseph Ashton presented the distinguished memorable the 102nd Infantry Regiment honoring him for his valor in the Vietnam War. One of those played on a all honor count and went over his so this, like I put there, he's a real true American hero of Puerto Rican descent, but at the end of the day, we're Americans, right? We're Americans, and there's many other Puerto Ricans that are highly decorated as well. But I wanted to start off with him, and I'm gonna follow up with some later today or tomorrow with the 65th, the 65th Infantry, which they call them the BorinQueneers. If you guys don't know, the indigenous people of Puerto Rico were the Taínos, and the name of Puerto Rico before the Spaniards came there and renamed it Puerto Rico, which means rich port, was called Borinquen. Okay, that's where the word Boricua comes from. Breaking up. Recon unit, that's cojones, grande. Yeah, so a lot of Puerto Ricans are I mean, why do you think back in the day, I mean, all through the 70s and part of the 80s, the salsa music was popular in different countries, Germany, France, Japan, is because, there was a lot of Puerto Ricans in the military. Everybody, and I don't care who you are, everybody that's been in the military can remember a Puerto Rican or two from whatever, basic training, boot camp, whatever you were in your platoon, in your regiment, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Everybody I ever talked to that in the military that always remembers some Puerto Rican cats there around, and they remember well. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to come out and highlight this guy's career as a true American hero. Because that valor means something. All the people that's lost their lives, that their families, if it was their wife or their parents, if they were young people, joined the military and they lived their life in Vietnam or the Korean War or the first Gulf War or Afghanistan or Iraq or any of them wars. The youngster lost his life young, or he had a wife and kids. All their all that wife have to remember them by is the Purple Heart or the American flag that was given to them at the funeral, but they didn't have no body, and for anybody, and that goes for anybody, to claim that they're in the military and they have this and they have that and they don't, shame on them, you know what I mean, for claiming to be, I was brought up yesterday and it was a straight bullshit lie that was put out there that I gave somebody's information about them and their family. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, you're giving yourself way too much credit there, buddy. You're not that important. You're not that important at all. I got other things going on in my life. You think I'm going to sit on a computer trying to figure out who you are? I give a rat's ass husky, man. You know what I mean? Straight up. I don't give a fuck. When a motherfucker comes on there always threatening people and they're a bitch and they're a punk and da-da-da-da, Miss me with all that shit. There ain't nothing old school about that, period. There's nothing convictish about that. There's nothing gangster about that. There's nothing outlaw about that. To me, it's just selling wolf tickets like you claim other people that do. You know what I mean? And to say that I gave up anything, I give a fuck about, and that's not to say nothing about your people, but I give a fuck. I got my own shit going on. I don't give a fuck about you or your people, man. Straight up. You know what I mean? I do my thing. The same way I am when I'm on screen is the same way I am off screen. I don't play these fucking games, man. I don't come on here fucking soldiering it up, keyboard warring it up, talking shit about people, and then have the nerve to talk about, oh, they're selling wolf tickets. You're doing the same motherfucking thing. Same motherfucking thing. You know what I mean? Straight up. That's a great question. If a Puerto Rican soldier do they fold a U.S. flag or a Puerto Rican flag or both? I think it's just American flag. I don't believe they get a I don't think the United States is going to give them a Puerto Rican flag. I'm not sure about that, but I don't believe so. But you know what? I shouldn't even be giving this giving it no never mind. But the thing is that I don't appreciate, and I don't dig somebody just straight up lying about me. And then you got these other dodo ass people that just says, "Oh, really? I didn't know. Oh, thanks for telling us." Like his word means anything. You know what I mean? And we all know if you're in front of somebody and you call a man a bitch or a punk, what's going to happen most of the time? I mean, there's a couple different things that could happen, right? He could just cower up and be like, whatever. He could call you it back to see what the fuck you're going to do. Or he could fucking get busy, start fighting, right? Or it could be even worse than that. But for you to sit behind a fucking screen and not even show who the fuck you are, and you got so much fucking shit to say, fucking is some bullshit. And then to boil down to it, you're really racist, bro. You're racist. All that Harambe shit, that's bullshit. Why would you call a person a gorilla? Only one reason. Fucking banana boat, that's fucking more racial bullshit. Because normally if you just say with banana boat, okay, probably let it slide. But with everything else that's been said, it's a crock of shit, right? And then now you want to make a statement about me eating beans. What does beans got to do with the price of rice in China? If you got an issue with me, nothing. And your issue with me is straight bullshit to put a punk ass lie like that out there. Straight bullshit ass lie. I don't fucking give a fuck who you are or anybody else is. You think I give a fuck that I'm going to be on the computer trying to find out who somebody is? I give a fuck. Because you know why? At the end of the day, you ain't shit. But a wolf took, all you do is sell wolf tickets. Blah, 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 blah. It's all a bunch of bullshit, man. Straight up. Straight up. People, you need to wake the fuck up. I quit everywhere. I'm a ghost paper. 4-leaf Tayback is wrongfully blaming my brother, the one who hasn't done anything to him. Yeah, so I had to come on here and say something. We're gonna highlight, like I said, we're gonna highlight real soldiers that really did something for this country. And I started off with somebody, of Puerto Rican descent, because there's been some fucked up shit said about people, nationalities, and people's families, which is a crock of shit. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be happening. And I've seen it too many times from all over the place. You know what I mean? And I don't see how anybody could call herself a fucking gangster or a fucking anything like that, talking like that. You know what I mean? Where you're fucking hiding, especially when you're hiding. And you can take that how you want. You can say, what difference does it make if I show who I am or not? Well, it makes a lot of difference, because it's you're coming from a place of straight bullshit. In my book, you know what I mean? You don't know necessarily, you don't have to show yourself, but when you're talking about people and making threats and talking about you're going to whoop everybody's ass and everybody's this and everybody's that, it makes you're damn right, it makes a difference. It makes a whole lot of difference. Yes, I'm done with everything everywhere. Yeah, well, I had been too, but when I get drug into something and a straight up lie being said about me, and then you got these fucking people to just take it from, just basically you could just say anything and they just, oh really? Oh, okay, thanks for telling us that. We didn't know. Like, you know what I mean? It's all a bunch of bullshit. I mean, really? He blamed all the no-flies on Ricans. Well, that's what I'm saying. But the fact is, that's what I'm saying. But I don't know. I come on, let's keep it real here. Have you guys ever heard me just come out and start talking shit about anybody? Have I ever done that? I don't do that, right? I might, maybe in the heat of words or in the comments, somebody says something to me, I might call them a chump or okay, Mark, or something like that, or something like that. But I don't go to the extreme of calling people bitches and punks, because I've said this many a times. When I call you that, I'm not giving you the opportunity to stand up for yourself, because I'm not in front of you. I'm probably 3,000 miles from you, So why would I do that? It's the same way I was trained, schooled when we're in the system. You don't do that. You don't be behind your door talking shit to somebody. You don't do that. You know what I mean? It's the same shit. It boils down to the same shit. But when like I said, when I'm drug into something and my name is said that I gave your information and your kids' information to SoFlo, what the fuck are you talking about, man? The fuck out of here with that bullshit. You know what I mean? That's straight bullshit. That's, yeah. So anyways, I got already a lot of stuff written down that I'm gonna come out with on the channel, like profiles, and I'm gonna start doing some soldiers from all the branches. You know what I mean? I'm gonna start doing some of that, and I got different things, pro baseball profiles I'm gonna do from my era that I grew up watching in the 80s, pretty much. Like I'm gonna do at least from 84, because a lot of the guys that I wanted to profile, they didn't start until like 84. So I want to start with 84, with guys that played at least half the decade. So pretty much half the decade. So 84 to like 90. I'm going to start with that. I already got all the guys written down from baseball, basketball, football, and boxing. Let's see, baseball, football, basketball, and boxing. I already got the four. I got the all the people written down from each sport written down that I'm going to profile. I might do probably 2 profiles per show. Depends how long it takes, because yeah, that was another thing too. Yeah, what you're saying there, Black Hat Music. There was some despicable racist shit said there, and supposedly this guy's against racism, but he didn't say shit about it, because at the end of the day, he's with that shit straight up. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I don't want to give that no more light, because it's just I'm not going to give light to basically a fraud, a fake motherfucker, straight up. So I'm going to do, okay, Bert Campaneris will always be my guy, though. Okay, yeah, he was good. He was good, but the only thing with Bert Campaneris was, I believe he went out in like the early 80s playing baseball. So what I was going to profile the whole A's team when they won the 3 championships in the 70s. So him, Sal Bando, Reggie Jackson, Catfish, Raleigh Fingers, Gene Tennis, Ray Fosse, Joe Rudy, all those guys back then. I was gonna do a profile on the 3 teams, and do it like that. But Chris Trock, what up, Chris Trock? If anybody wants to come on, let me know. I'll drop the link. But I was gonna do, so basically what I'll give you guys a quick little, so you guys know what I'm talking about, as far as during my era that I remember, the baseball, the sports back then in the 80s. So these are the ones I'm gonna do on baseball. George Brett, Don Mattingly, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, Nolan Ryan, Dale Murphy, Carney Lansford, Dave Parker, Dave Winfield, Ricky Henderson, Andre Dawson, George Bell, Kirby Puckett, Kyle Ripken, Mike Schmidt, Ozzie Smith, Tony Armas Sr., Fernando Valenzuela, Jose Chel Cruz Sr., and Pedro Guerrero. Now, you don't see McGuire and Canseco there, or Bonds, or Kevin Mitchell, or any of them, because they started, their rookie season was 86. So I'm going back. Oh, and then I had Tony Gwynn, because Tony Gwynn came out in 84. So, like I said, you got to be in 84, at least rookie season 84. And then football, I'm going to do it on Montana, Elway, Marino, Phil Simms, Marcus Allen, Walter Payton, Eric Dickerson, Roger Craig, Tony Dorsett, Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, Lawrence Taylor, Howie Long, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, Ronnie Lott, Anthony Munoz, Bruce Matthews, and Mike Singletary. And then basketball, yeah, I got Ricky Henderson here. Basketball, and the reason why I did 84 is because that's the year MJ came out. Hakeem Olajuwon and Barkley. So those are my first three on the NBA my list. I'm not gonna do it in that order. I was just doing them off the top of my head. So we got MJ, Hakeem, Barkley, Magic, Kareem, Dr. J, Moses Malone, Larry Bird, Alex English, Isaiah Thomas, James Worthy, Tom Chambers, Dominique Wilkins, Adrian Dantley, Mark Aguirre, Kevin McHale, George Gervin, Bernard King, Clyde Drexler, and Kiki Vanderway. Yeah, I got Ricky. Black Hat Music. I got him. I read him number 10 off the first list of baseball. George Brett, Don Mattingly, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, Nolan Ryan, Dale Murphy, Carney Lansford, Dave Parker, Dave Winfield, Ricky Henderson, Andre Dawson, George Bell, Kirby Puckett, Cal Ripken Jr., Mike Schmidt, Ozzie Smith, Tony Armas Sr., Fernando Valenzuela, Jose Chel Cruz Sr., and Pedro Guerrero. Yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon, definitely. He's Hakeem Olajuwon is like, he's, to me, okay, I made a list of my top 10 NBA players all time, and 1 was Kareem, 2 was MJ, 3 was LeBron, 4 was Bill Russell, 5 was Magic, 6 was Larry Bird, 7 was Wilt Chamberlain, 8 was Shaq, 9 was Kobe, 10A, I made an exception on 10. I made 10A Tim Duncan and 10B Hakeem Olajuwon. And then 11 was Kevin Durant, 12 was Steph Curry. You know what I mean? But yeah, people don't know Hakeem Olajuwon, him and Michael Jordan are the only 2 guys to win the regular season MVP, the finals MVP, and the defensive player of the year. And then he's also only one of 4 guys to ever get recorded quadruple double. It's Nate Thurman, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, and Alvin Robertson. And those are all centers except for Alvin Robinson was a guard. Okay, so those are my basketballs. My boxing, I kind of struggled with that one for a minute. If anybody recognizes any names you guys think I should have put in there, let me know. That goes for all the lists. So boxing, I got Aaron Pryor, Alexis Aguayo, Boom Boom Mancini, Chavez Sr., Pernell Whitaker, Larry Holmes, Marvelous Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Wilfredo Gomez, Holyfield, Michael Spinks, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Camacho, Barry McGuigan, Nelson, Zuma Nelson, Salvador Sanchez, Mike Tyson, Roger Mayweather, and Wilfredo Benitez. What about the doctor? He's there. He was my 6'1", I said. MJ, Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Dr. J, Moses Malone, Larry Bird, Alex English, Isaiah Thomas, James Worthy, Tom Chambers, Dominique Wilkins, Adrian Dantley, Mark Aguirre, Kevin McHale, Iceman Gervin, Bernard King, Clyde Drexler, and Kiki Vanderway. Those are my basketballs. Yeah, I played basketball. Yeah, I used to play basketball, and everybody tripped out on me in basketball because I'm fat, right? And I was able to use and abuse people, and they couldn't figure it out. Finally, one guy finally figured it out. Not that he was able to stop me, but he just figured out how I was able to play. He said, "You're so quick with your hands when you get the rebound, when you put the ball back." He goes, "That's why people can't block you, because you put your body between them and the ball. You know what I mean? And then you're quick with the release of the ball off your hands, like on putbacks." Yeah, we had some bad teams back in the day, man. And then I got my pro wrestler list. Again, if anybody believes they should be here, put their names out there. So pro wrestling, I got Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, King Kong Bundy, John Studd, Andre the Giant, Jimmy Snuka, Ricky Steamboat, JYD, Hillbilly Jim, Superstar Billy Graham, Roddy Piper, Arn Anderson, the Road Warriors, Barry Windham, Ivan Koloff, Kerry Von Erich, Tony Atlas, Harley Race. And this is, again, it's going like 84 to 1990-ish. I watched the Larry Holmes Tex Cobb fight when I was in boot camp. That's what's up. Okay, so what we say here? What do we got here? Naseem Ahmed, but Naseem Ahmed didn't fight in the 80s. This is an 80s list from at least 84 to 90. I don't even think Ahmed started fighting until the early 90s. Chris Trock, our quarterback Nelson, had been busy, but we have a good show planned with some awesome guests. The No Fly Zone Weekends 3 will be another channel. Yep, we're gonna have Okay. Remember, Naseem? He had a couple good fights, man, with Kevin Kelly. They knocked each other down a few times. He had a good fight with Fredo Vasquez, and then he had that one when he got beat finally by Barrera. Yeah, George Animal Steel. Yeah, Oh, you know what? I don't even got Macho Man on that list. That's crazy. No, I don't have Macho Man on there. So that's crazy. See, that's why I asked. See, by you saying George Animal Steel, that made me think of Macho Man. I don't have Jake the Snake on there either. But there were so many stars back then, it's hard to. Yeah, Dusty Rose was my first one I said. Jeff Benich over all them guys I got on my list? No, I don't think so. Let's see. So this is what I got. I started off with NWA wrestling under the NWA banner first with Dusty and Flair. Then I went WWF, Hogan, Bundy, Stud, Andre, Snuka, Steamboat, JYD, Hillbilly Jim, and Superstar Billy Graham. By that time, he was in WWF, I believe. Roddy Piper. And then I went back to NWA, Arn Anderson, Road Warriors, Barry Windham, Ivan Koloff, Kerry Von Erich, Tony Atlas, back to WWF, and then Harley Race, NWA and WWF, Macho Man, WWF, and WCW, Jake the Snake, both. I know there was but like, Terry Funk, I think, should be in there. Terry Funk. It's hard to boil it down like that when you got so many different champions and so many different people that stuck out. Because a lot of guys stuck out to me, but like I didn't put the Steiners because Rick Steiner was there, and then Scott came along like late '80s, and I think Rick Steiner, when I've heard of him, was around. I think Rick Steiner was in Florida Championship Wrestling in Florida. I think at the time when I first heard of him. Yeah, Magnum T8. The reason I didn't put Magnum TA is because I didn't hear of Magnum TA until first he was in Mid-South with Bill Watts. So he was over there with Junkyard Dog, Hacksaw Butch Reed, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ted DiBiase. He was over there. And then by the time he came to Jim Crockett Promotions, it was like 86, 87. So I'm trying to stick with guys at least from 84 when I first started wrestling. So I could have Tully Blanchard in there too. Tully Blanchard, I didn't put Luger and Sting because they were more late 80s. You know what I'm saying? So I keep looking for you guys and check my notifications. What do you mean? Yeah, short career. Matter of fact, Black Hat Music, they just did a interview with him the other day on Hannibal TV with Magnum TA, and the day before that, or it might have been 2 days before that, Hannibal did an interview with Greg Gagne, and what they're doing is they're coming out with these new figures, and the first 6 they came out with was Lou Thez, Vern Gagne, Bruiser Brody, Magnum TA, and Stan Hansen. Those are 5 right there. I think there's one more. So they came out with this thing with this company that they teamed up with years back before the AWA went out of business, and they're making some like the packaging and everything they got to do with these figures are like A1A. They're top notch, and they have hundreds of guys to do different wrestlers, and those are the first 5. But I think there were 6 if I remember. So, anyways, Magnum TA's teamed up with Greg Gagne, and then the guy that worked with them years back, he came out of retirement to do this, and then they hooked up with, I think it's called Pro Team or something like that, the name of the business. Yeah, there you go. Wahoo Mcdaniel. That's one. But like I said, Electric is 1 and 2. I mean, Wahoo. People don't know, but Wahoo was I got another thing that some other content that I'm gonna come out with about pro wrestlers that were football players, and he was definitely a pro. He played with the Jets, and the Jets let him go when they drafted Namath, because I believe Wahoo was the highest paid player at the time on the Jets. Went pro in '84, championship in 3 weight classes. Yeah. He was good, but I don't think he goes over any of these guys that I got there already, though. I can't see him going over Aguayo. But we'll see. I'm going to add his name, though. Mr. Wrestler 1 and 2. What was Mr. Wrestler? Was that the dude from Bill Eadie from Demolition? Jeff Finich. Wrestling 1 and 2. If anybody wants to come on, let me know. I'll drop the link. Yeah, but Wahoo Mcdaniel, definitely. Wahoo Mcdaniel was one of Ric Flair's. He was like Ric Flair's idol at first, and then they became enemies. He's held a lot of different titles for different promotions. He's held the NWA. I think he was a heavyweight champion before. I know he's held the United States title. I know he's held the TV title. I'm not sure about the NWA main belt. He could have, but I'm pretty sure he's held the title. Florida champ, Georgia, Mid-Atlantic champ. I'm pretty sure. But with Wahoo, you got Bill Goldberg, Wahoo Mcdaniel. You got Hacksaw Butch Reed. You got who else? There's a couple other guys that played pro football, and then you got guys that played college football, such as Ron Simmons, Dr. Def Steve Williams, Lex Luger. I'm not sure if he made it to the pros or he just college, but I know he was college at least. But I got a list of guys too. And then Macho Man was a baseball player for the Cardinals. So I got a lot of content written down that I can make videos. When it comes to sports, you can't never run out of content. David Von Erich's funeral in Dallas, gridlock, traffic. Yeah. That's so crazy and sad how that whole family, how that all happened. There's only one living brother right now. I believe Kevin's the only living one. David, Kerry, and what was the other brother's name? Michael? I think it was Mike. They're all gone, man. All suicide. Crazy. Well, the 2 brothers suicide. They said David died of, I guess, pills or something. I'm not really sure about that one, because you got different stories that they say. Got to do Bruiser. Oh yeah, Bruiser Brody. There you go. That was the other pro football. He was a pro. Bruiser Brody played for the Washington Redskins. I got him written down. I just couldn't think of him offhand. So the ones that played pro football was Bruiser Brody, Wahoo McDaniel, Bill Goldberg, and see Bruiser Brody, Wahoo McDaniel, Bill Goldberg, and Hacksaw Butch Reed. Those guys I know for sure played pro football. Oh, and Mr. Wonderful. Paul Orndorff played for the Chiefs too, because I think Hacksaw Butch Reed played for the Chiefs, and I think Mr. Wonderful played for the Chiefs as well. Oh, and then also Big Van Vader. I got him written down too. He was drafted by the Rams, first pick. Yeah, Lyle Zato as a wrestler. He would have been good. Yeah, he would have been good. Yeah, he would have. Yeah, he has a hell of a charisma. He had, he could. I know he could command the crowd. He could sell for other guys. He could make it real good. He can create some big time heat. But would he be a heel or would he be a baby face? What you think about that? So I got a lot of content, a lot of stuff to be talked about. Bill Romanowski, what is a wrestler? Oh yeah, speaking of that, yeah, okay, yeah, that was another person I had written down was Mongo McMichael, Steve McMichael. He actually played for the Bears and he did it flip-flop. He played for the Bears and then came and wrestled, became a member of the Four Horsemen. I guess he's battling Lou Gehrig disease right now, pretty bad. So he's another guy that I'd written down. And then Kevin Green and those guys, they came in and it was just a short-lived thing. But Mongo McMichael, Steve McMichael was around for a while. Like I said, he was a member of the Four Horsemen. I guess him and Ric Flair got real close. So when Ric Flair brings him up, he starts getting all sentimental and teary-eyed because I guess he's battling it pretty hard right now. But Black Hat Music, Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2, was that Bill Hader? Bill Hader? Let me see. He also, if that's true, he also was with the, what do you call that, when Andre the Giant was the Giant Machine. No, okay, so Mr. Wrestling 1 was George Burrell Wooden. Mr. Wrestling and Tim Woods, those were his nicknames. So no, it wasn't him. Bill Eadie, I think my bad, I hit the button. Looking forward to the show, Lou. I would spread the word, but I got no one to tell. Alzado would have been a heel. He might have had a hard time staying to the script too. Yeah, maybe. But I'm trying to figure out. You guys remember that when Andre the Giant got what was his name? Bill Eadie. When he got kicked out of WWF for a while, he went by the name Giant Machine. He had the mask on, and then his partner was Bill Eadie. I can't remember what his nickname was though. Let's see. I'll tell you guys right now. Okay, Bill Eadie was American. Oh, the Masked Superstar. That was his nickname, the Masked Superstar. He went by the Super Machine, and Andre the Giant was the Giant Machine. And then later on, he became Axe from Demolition. He had a hell of a career too. A nice career in Japan. He made a lot of money in Japan. Japan, man. If you look back at Japan, Stan Hansen got a big push there in Japan. Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher, Kamala was over there for a little while. The Funks were huge in Japan. Bill Eadie, the Masked Superstar. Andre the Giant was huge when he went to Japan. Of course, Hogan was huge, and then Ric Flair was obviously the NWA champion. So when he would go to Japan to defend the title, the NWA title, because Japan was also under the NWA banner. So that's why I said I had mentioned in that video about Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, who were the bigger star of the 80s. I pick Hulk Hogan only because the look he had. His stature, 6'7", 300 pounds. You know what I mean? He had Hulkamania, and he also had the red and yellow. Ric Flair had the man and Nature Boy and all that, but I just think it was blown more up at WWF. But Jim Ross, JR, said that it takes a special human being to be the NWA champion, meaning because 300 days a year, you're actually working, traveling all over to different promotions, different territories that are up under the NWA banner to defend the title. So you would go from, wherever you're at, Carolinas, because he was under Jim Crockett towards the end of mid-80s, 86 up. He would go to Florida to fight the Florida heavyweight champion, Georgia to fight the Georgia heavyweight champion, the Central States champion, the Western States champion. He would fight, Portland, the different promotions in Texas, which I don't think Joe Blanchard was still running by them, San Antonio, because Tully was also over there in Jim Crockett. But you had WCCW, which was Von Erich's Fritz. And then they had a Texas champion, so he'd wrestle that guy. Then you had the Funks. They had a promotion in Amarillo. I don't think they still had that one going by then. I think the Funks were working with Mike Graham now as a booker over there in Florida. And then Japan, Australia, Germany, New Zealand, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, all these different places. They were also would wrestle against, they were under the NWA banner, and they would wrestle against Ric Flair when he come to town. Fabulous Freebirds. The smaller guy's name was oh my god, he ended up being the manager for the Samoan SWAT team. Buddy, was his name Buddy Roberts? Was it Buddy Roberts? I think it was Buddy Roberts. Let me check. I think it was Buddy Roberts. Let me see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Buddy Roberts. Not to make sure. Buddy Roberts. Yeah, Buddy Roberts. Del Hay, real name, was a Canadian American professional wrestler, better known as ring name Buddy Roberts, primarily a tag team wrestler. Roberts is known for his appearance as one of the Hollywood Blondes in the 70s and one of the Fabulous Freebirds in the 80s. So he's from Vancouver, Canada. There's a lot of wrestlers from Canada. Ronnie Garvin, the Rougeaus, like everybody knows. Also the Ivan Koloff. The Hearts, Hart, Bulldogs on there. My kid. A lot of guys went. There's a lot of guys. Dino Bravos from Canada. Let's see, Gino Brito from Canada. They're Italians, but they're from Canada. So I think they speak Italian, English, and French from Montreal. Yeah, the Rougeaus, Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and I forget the smaller guy. Yeah, Buddy Roberts. Yeah, wrestling from what it was, originally it was a carnival thing. They would travel and wrestle with the carnival, maybe wrestle with a bear, call big guys out in the crowd and stretch them out on the, and then it became, from there it started going to gymnasiums around high schools and things like that. And then it just got bigger and bigger. You know what I mean? Some of the names back in the days, Buddy Rogers, Luthez, Vern Gagne. There's a lot of guys, but those are the names that stick out. Gorgeous George, I think, was before all of them. Gorgeous George. Then Bruno came in, and then Superstar Billy Graham, Dusty Rhodes. And back then, Dusty Rhodes and Bruno was a WWF champion. And then Dusty Rhodes and Superstar, I believe they were under the NWA. And at that time, Vince Sr. was under the NWA. That's why he would let Andre go out to different territories because you couldn't just keep him in one spot. You got to send him out. Another one that died too young. English guy. Oh, yeah. The Gentleman, Chris Adams. Yep. And Gino Hernandez. That was his teammate. That was his tag team partner. And then they became, they got heat with each other. Oh, yeah. A lot of wrestlers died way too young. Way too young. I mean, even Animal from the Road Warriors, he just passed away a couple months back, and he was only 60, 61, something like that. That's still too young. Hacksaw Butch Reed was like 66, 67. He just passed away. Mr. Wonderful, he might have been 70, 72, maybe. He just passed away. They had a lot of problems for the last probably 20 years. Mr. Wonderful couldn't use one of his arms. It was paralyzed. Then you got guys like Dynamite Kid, he had to crawl around to get around. I mean, literally crawl. Let's see. Heenan, Big Stud, and Ken Patera giving haircuts. Yeah, I remember all that back in the day. Speaking of Patera, Ric Flair, Iron Sheik, Jim Brunzell, and Greg Gagne, and there was one other guy, but he didn't make it big. Those were the 6 that came out of Vern Gagne's and Bill Robinson's camp back in 72. He said, this is just recently too, Greg Gagne, he just gave up an interview last week. He said that at the start, there was 118 guys in the class. And at the end of it, there was only 6 finished, and they all became professional wrestlers. And those 5 out of those 6 end up being big time. Yeah, it just came a long way though. Tim Egan, AWA. Yep, exactly. And if you get deep, if you can remember back then, if you're watching back then, or if you read up on it, stuff like that, or watched documentaries or any type of interviews, Vince Jr. started picking off their talent, right? He started picking off their talent, starting with Hulk Hogan. And if you look at it, all their talent either majority of them went to the WWF, but some of them went to the NWA. And what happened there was the Crockett's were having, the Crockett's and AWA, they would have Clash of the Champions. And the champions from both promotions would face off with each other. But what was going on was that the Crockett's and other people that worked for NWA in the locker room, they were trying to sign the AWA guys. You know what I mean? Because if you look at it, all the Diamond Dallas Page came out of AWA as a manager first. Scott Hall was over there. Larry, Mr. Perfect was over there. Those guys all went. Von Raschke was over there. So they went. Some went to NWA. Some went to WWF. You had the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors, if anybody don't know, the Road Warriors held the AWA tag team titles and the NWA tag team titles and the Japanese titles. I don't remember if it was New Japan or if it was the other promotion, but they held all three titles at the same time. And they were smart. I think it was more Joe Animal than Laurinaitis, because he was more business savvy and he was up on what to do and what not to do as far as as a business. He was more on the business tip, and so they were more like free agents to do a lot of what they wanted, and they made a lot of money in Japan too. I was a huge fan. Then lost track in the late '82 until '86 when I returned from the military. Yeah, like me, I watched it big from like '84, '85ish, for sure '85, but I think I started watching around '84 because I remember Mid South and I remember Mid Atlantic were on back then. And then majority of those guys all were in Jim Crockett, more towards the mid, more like '86ish. They were more with Jim Crockett Promotions out of Carolina. And then I watched it up until probably like 91. And then like 92, 93, I would just catch shows here and there. I lost a lot of interest in it. And then I got back into it when the NWA, or not the NWA, excuse me, the WCW NWO thing. I got back into it then. When I got back, Crockett Promotions was empty to the WWF. So that was later than '86 then, because Crockett Promotions was still going good up until probably, I want to say 89. 88 for sure, 89, maybe 90. And then that's when WCW bought it, or it was, not so much WCW, but Turner Broadcasting, TBS bought them out. Claudio Perry. And that was jacked up. I don't know, what was going on there. Because you remember Tony Schiavone used to say this is I don't remember exact words he said, but he would say like, this is like the all-stars of wrestling, all-stars of pro wrestling, or something like that, he would say. Just dropped in it for a minute, Big Lou. Lots to do. Oh, yep. Yes, sir. Thanks for stopping by. I know you'll hit that like button. And later drop a comment or whatever. Come back and watch it and handle your business. I appreciate you. And he would say this is all stars of wrestling or something like that. He was saying, and it was a different style. Like AWA was real, like AWA with Vern Gagne. It was real wrestling. Like, you went in there and you wrestled. You know what I'm saying? You had Sabisco over there. You had Rick Martel was over there. So, everybody knows Larry Sabisco was the last AWA heavyweight champion before they went out of business. He was married to Vern Gagne's daughter. Then you had Rick Martel was a champion over there as well. I think Larry Hennig, or not Larry, but Kurt Hennig might have been champion over there. Nick Bockwinkel, you had all those guys. These guys were wrestlers. You know what I mean? They could take care of their business in the ring. Then the NWA, you had Ric Flair, you had Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, you had Barry Windham. He was well skilled in there for being 6'6". Then Sting, as Sting came along, he learned to become the heavyweight champion. Not like Ultimate Warrior, who was originally his tag partner when they first came into business as the Blade Runners. He never cared to learn. He wanted to go in there with a big superstar like Hulk Hogan and do 3 moves each and then go home. Hulk Hogan was like, no, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? And the NWA too, they had wrestlers, Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man. You had Rick Rude was over there, tag team with Manny Fernandez. Manny Fernandez could handle his own in there. You had the Steiners, Mike Rotunda. You had Kevin Sullivan. The list goes on and on as well. NWA or Crockett Promotions. These guys could wrestle just like WCCW. You had the Von Erichs. You had the Freebirds. You had Gino Hernandez. You had Chris Adams. You had gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. These dudes could wrestle too. When you get to the WWF, it was more. That's another one that I forgot to write down, was Don the Morocco. Earlier, there was a name that slipped my mind, and because he was one of my favorites too. But when you get to the WWF, it was more of the look. Ricky Steamboat, Jimmy Snuka, they were muscular, but they weren't. These guys used to be bodybuilders at one time. Superfly Snuka, I believe he was Mr. Hawaii, I think it was at one time. And Steamboat was Mr. North Carolina. These guys were yoked, right? They were yoked. And then you had, of course, Hulk Hogan. You had Mr. Wonderful. You had Tony Atlas. You had Rocky Johnson. You had Don the Rock Morocco. When he came back, he was yoked. He was already big, but then he came back in the 80s and he was yoked. There's a few other guys too that were yoked as well. A Macho Man was yoked, but he was smaller version of Hulk Hogan, probably 2 sizes down. Yeah, and then too, I never understood why I liked. And Rick Rude was yoked; he was buff too. I don't know why I liked Jimmy Garvin. You know what I mean? Because he had more of that rocker hairband type look, right? But I liked him as a wrestler, and I like Ronnie Garvin. And people don't know Ronnie Garvin and him ain't brothers in real life. They're actually stepfather and stepson, and they got a weird relationship. They haven't even contacted each other or been in talks for like 20 years plus. I think Jimmy Garvin said his dad was a cop and his dad passed away, and then his mom remarried Ronnie Garvin. When I came back to Dallas, TBS in Atlanta had lost a lot of talent. Yeah, they did. Then you had Sid Vicious came in, as Sid Justice. He was a big dude, tall, and kind of, he had good size on him. The Undertaker, when he first came in, he was a lot bigger than he looked when he retired. Because he came from I don't know if he was in WCW. He was in actually he was all over the place. Most of these guys wrestled all over the place before they hit it big. And like Stunning Steve Austin, he was having a decent career in WCW, but when he came to WWF and Stone Cold, that's when he blew up. You know what I mean? But there was a lot of guys like what's his name? Diesel, Kevin Nash. He had all kinds of goofy gimmicks. Vinny Vegas, he had all kinds of goofy ones before he finally got it hit big with Diesel. I remember the first time I saw Lex Luger, and he was a big dude. Yeah, Lex Luger was listed at 6'5", like 270, 265, 275, something like that. Yeah, he was big. Like when it comes to him and Hulk Hogan, I don't think he had big arms. His arms are big, but they weren't like big, like to match the rest of his body. I think, he had obviously a 6-pack and he had nice shoulders and shoulder caps and traps, were decent, but he couldn't take that torch. They tried to take him to the WWF, what was it called? The Luger Express or the Lex Express or something like that. And he just couldn't take off with it. You know what I mean? They made that bus for him and he toured all over the United States, but he couldn't take that, he couldn't take the mantle from Hogan, and that's when the Ultimate Warrior got it. Yeah, he was ripped. No, don't get me wrong. He was a big, he's a big dude. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, you ever notice that when he used to flex all the time, he would flex forward, like standing forward, and you didn't see him flex the biceps much. He would always flex. I don't even know what that flex is called, where like his traps and stuff would bulge out. And Hulk Hogan on the other side would, on the other hand, would do that flex and the biceps. You know what I mean? But let's get something straight here. Hulk Hogan did not have 24-inch arms. That's for sure. 24-inch arms. You know how big that is? Hulk Hogan had maybe 21s, maybe. But he was a lot bigger. Hulk Hogan was a lot bigger. Hulk Hogan was a lot bigger when he first busted out and was wrestling at CWA, Continental Wrestling Alliance, or no, CWF, Continental Wrestling Federation, for Jerry Jarrett, which is Jeff Jarrett's dad. He was a lot bigger. I mean, weight wise, I think he was like 320, 330, 6'7". He looked like a humongous beast. You know what I mean? Did you guys ever know people who thought pro wrestling was 100% on the level? I thought it was real when I was a little kid. I remember hearing. I remember the David Schultz Dr. D thing with Stossel when he slapped him. I remember that, and I remember, I don't know who said it, but I remember, I think it was Stan Hansen. He said a long time ago in a promo. He goes, "I ain't beat nobody up this week," something like that. I think that was Stan Hansen. I was real little, real young when that happened. What are you talking about, Tim? What are you talking about, Tim? Wrestling's real. I mean, people who think it's choreographed, it isn't choreographed. No, I don't really remember anybody. I think everybody, because you got to keep in mind, 84, 85, I was like 6 years old. In 84, 85, I was 7 years old. So I believe it was real. You know what I mean? It looked, but now after getting older, like a few weeks back, I watched something. I think it was the Royal Rumble 92. I think it was 92. And then I had watched some other wrestling things from 86, 88, different years. And I started cracking up, man. When I remember when Ric Flair would take a couple punches to the face or the head or whatever, and then the guy would let him alone from hitting him, and then he would start walking forward, and he would take a couple steps and then fall. I don't know if you guys remember that. I would watch some of the wrestling and just start cracking up because it was funny. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna go ahead and shut this one down. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Like always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for taking the time to hear me and hear what I got to say. And just word to the wise, and not nobody that's here right now, but people that come back and watch this. People, wake up, people, and stop listening to nonsense. And don't just, anything you hear, you just go ahead and believe it. Like this nonsense that was said about me giving up information. It's not that serious in my life. Get real. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. But I really hope that some of you people would wake up to this bullshit. Instead of just hearing whatever you hear and then take it like, "Oh, really? Thanks for telling us. We didn't know." Like, the fuck out of here with that bullshit. You know what I mean? I worked with a guy. Who was locked up for 8 years, who did a fair amount of violence himself, who thought it was real. Wow, that's a trip. Yeah, pretty much. Why? Yeah, it was, but I think it got even worse as the years went along. It got worse as the years went on. You got, well, to be honest with you, it was like when we brought up Jimmy Garvin and Precious and all that. That was all some soap opera crap with Kevin Sullivan, and her name is I forgot what Patty. Her name's Patty, and she was my girl, and blah blah blah, and then other things, over the years, and then when it came with WWF and Stephanie McMahon and all the drama there, yeah, it was definitely a man soap opera. By that time, I didn't watch, but there still was his fair share of stuff back in the day. on Jim Crockett and stuff like that. That's for sure. You get mad at me when I said it was staged. Wow, that's a trip. But anyways, yeah. Thanks everybody again for stopping by, and salute to those that served in the armed forces. Black Hat Music, Primo, Michael Hensley, Army Combat Medic, and anybody else here that served that I don't know about. Thank you as well for your service. It got corny as hell as I got older. Yeah, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. But it's. I mean, to us, it got corny, but it's so weird how it continued to expand and go global. And Vince McMahon's vision was he got to what he wanted to get to. He accomplished what he wanted to go global and take everybody's you know uh he took a lot of people's business, as far as making them shut it down. But you know what? Business is business, man. I guess, it's scandalous and treacherous how things were handled, by him in the WWF. But at the end of the day, that's why you got to get things done legally, and that way things like that couldn't happen. But now he's retired, and his daughter runs it along with Triple H and the son. I don't know if his wife has anything to do with it, but he got pretty much forced out, I believe, by those accusations that came out, some type of sexual harassment or something. I'm not really sure as far as the details of it, but he got pretty much pushed out, forced him to retire. Now he's out of the way. But before all that, he turned in, basically when he did WrestleMania, the first one, I think he was like tapped for money. Like all his money went into that business. And, for him, fortunately for him and everybody else that loves WWF, now WWE, it was huge, it's huge. And he turned it into a $1 billion franchise now, I miss the old NWA and WCCW, yeah, and WW and AWA, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but I was telling you when I used to go visit my dad on the weekends. I'm only like 4 years old, and he would tell me, "Okay, you want to watch this wrestling? You hit this button," and he'd have it all set. What it was written, it was the old cable boxes where it had a cord, and you push the buttons, and he had it set up where it was written down NWA, AWA. So when I was at his house on the weekends, I'd watch a lot, mostly all NWA, Jim Crockett. I'd watch some Mid South and AWA, and then at home I would catch Raw on Monday nights. I think that's what it was called, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, and they would show you house shows that weren't televised, and then they would also go back and show you the results of the pay-per-views, and I think that was Raw. And then sometimes they'd have some on-set guests. That's the one where Brooklyn Brawler and Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster, were going at it one time. And I'd catch that. And then Saturday nights, I believe it was called Superstars of Wrestling, I think it was called. And I'd catch that. You know what I mean? Those are the only time I really watched WWF. And then I'd always get the magazine. So that's why I was aware of like WCCW and Mid-South too, when they became UWF and different promotions. I would catch in the wrestling magazine, and then I would get the WWF magazine too. Okay, okay. So right here, Black Hat Music says Starcade '86. So that's another thing. Dusty Rhodes is the creator of all these Starcade, Fall Brawl, all those different ones from that were in Jim Crockett, and then went over to WCW. I can't remember some of the other names. Starcade, Fall Brawl, Halloween Havoc. Those names were all from Dusty Rhodes. You know what I mean? Dusty Rhodes is my favorite wrestler. Singles wrestler, my favorite all time is Dusty Rhodes, because he was, like I said, he was a chubby dude. He can go in there and handle his business. He can sling them. He can brawl. He can wrestle. He was in the mix with the Horsemen and 6-man tag and the Superpowers with him and Nikita Koloff. The U.S. Tag Team Champions. I think they were the tag champions for a little bit too. He was a 6-man tag team. He held the U.S. title. He was a 2-time NWA champ. He held the television title. He's definitely a iconic figure in NWA. And then when he went to WWF and they put him in the polka dots, that was to embarrass him, I believe. And he still took that gimmick and handled his business. I love NWA in the studio Saturday afternoons. Then TBS would go live from the Omni. Yep, the Omni was in Atlanta. I believe that was Georgia, right? The Omni. Yeah, they were the Omni. The Omni was like kind of like by that time was like Madison Square Garden to NWA, WCW. Yep, these guys. It can go on and on with when it comes to these guys, just as it is with all the other sports. They made a name for themselves. They were iconic in different eras, different wrestlers, just like sports players. They were, champions. It was more choreographed, but nonetheless, it's still you still had to get in there. You still had to perform. You know what I mean? And that's where they lost a lot of the WWF at the time, where it was more of a strength thing with them than the actual wrestling. You know what I mean? But okay, people, I've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. Again, I appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, I thank everybody for stopping by and spending some time with us over here. And with that being said, again, I'm going to say salute to all the veterans. And Big Lou tapping on out. Thanks.